This is Money, Motivation, and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright. In charge of all the controls is audio engineer Jason Wright. And hello to you, world. This is the show that will change your life. You can contact us at info@mx3.vip and find all of our content at mx3.vip or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@MX3 Podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified of all of our new content, which comes out every Monday morning around 9 o'clock by Mr. Jason Wright. And obviously, people continue to do that, Jason. We're over 64,000 subscribers on YouTube. The numbers all continue to increase. Once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, a little shout out here. Who would you think, when you think about Mickey Mouse, who is Mickey Mouse's best pal?
So, Doggo, was it Pluto?
No.
Oh,
Pal, that was his dog.
Hey, that's my pal.
Okay, yeah, you're not the crazy Disney nut like I am.
Yeah, it'll be Donald or Goofy.
Donald.
Okay.
Donald was around before Minnie.
Okay.
Donald was created to be Mickey's running mate.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Donald Duck is turning 90 years old. How about that?
Getting up there.
He's getting on up there. I guess, well, he's been getting a senior. He's almost old enough to run for president.
He still looks good for 90, though.
He looks real good. That dude does not age, does he? Yes. Donald Duck, the iconic Disney character, is turning 90, and he is going to appear on a popular YouTube talk show, Hot Ones, later this week. How about that? We're going to do a shout out to Hot Ones, and I'm sure Hot Ones will be telling everybody about our show, Money, Motivation, and Mike, when he interviews Donald Duck.
Are you familiar with Hot Ones?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty good show. I couldn't do it.
Well, hey, you never know. Maybe, hey, contact him, see if he wants to come on. We'll be glad to go over there. Sean Evans, I believe, is the host of Hot Ones.
I believe that's right.
Well, anyway, Donald Duck's going to be on there this week talking about his 90th year, and Disney is about to do, well, I think they actually started this yesterday. Disney is celebrating 90 years of Donald Duck. I'm sure Mickey Mouse will be speaking about how good of friends they've been for all this long time. So, we go into Disney characters, and then it kind of also reminds us of some of the stuff that we have been looking at, reviewing, and talking about over the last month, which is United States of America politics. And right now, what are we doing? We have the Democratic National Convention going on. Now, we are going to focus a little bit more today on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and how that's going. But last night at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Jason, you did know there was a show going on, right? A convention?
Oh, yeah. I've heard a thing.
You've heard about it?
Yeah. I heard a thing or two.
Well, they had a special speaker last night. And to me, this goes along with our hypocritical episode or two that we've had over the last couple of years about being hypocritic. So last night, Oprah Winfrey spoke at the Democratic National Convention, and she endorsed Vice President Harris for becoming president of the United States. Now, she is getting a tremendous amount of backlash as supporters of Donald Trump obviously are just trolling Oprah Winfrey over her endorsement, over the fact of the relationship, all professional business relationship that she and Donald J. Trump have had. Now, remember, Oprah's 70 years old. Trump is 77, 78. They go way back. They go way back to when Oprah was doing her first appearance on the Johnny Carson show there in the mid-1980s. She's doing that, and she's a Chicago girl, so she didn't have to go too far for this convention. But the point is, back in on January the 11th, 2000, Oprah Winfrey wrote a letter, handwritten letter, to Donald Trump. And it says this: Donald, I received the book excerpt. I have to tell you, your comments made me a little weepy. It's one thing to try and live a life of integrity, still another to have people like yourself notice. Thank you, Oprah. Now, down at the bottom, we got us a little side note. Too bad we're not running for office. What a team. All right. So what she's referring to here is, I don't know whenever he was actually on Oprah Winfrey's show, but obviously he was. And Oprah wrote him a letter. But as those who may not remember, we're coming on to January the 11th of the year 2000 when Oprah's writing this letter, and President Clinton is coming to an end of his terms. So Vice President Al Gore is now going to be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, and he's going to be running against George Bush #2. So that election then is 11 months out, 10 months out, and she's basically telling Donald Trump that we are to be running for president and vice president of the United States. Now, what has happened to integrity? Now, see, this is what I'd say. Donald Trump, in my opinion, hasn't changed a whole lot since he wrote The Art of the Deal back in the 1980s. And I've read that book. He has been on that apprentice show that he had. Donald Trump's personality is who Donald Trump is. I mean, he doesn't change overnight. I don't know that he's ever changed. He might have gotten worse in an opinion of how harsh and brass he is. He says what he thinks. You either like it or you don't.
And most people liked him before he became president, or
obviously, and including Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah,
and him and the Clintons were tied once upon a time.
Yep.
So here he is, Oprah, and of course the person who put out this letter was the recipient of this letter, Donald Trump, and he put it out there within minutes after her speech last night and her endorsement of Vice President Harris. So even used the word integrity in this letter to Mr. Trump at the time, 24 years ago. So how are you now a racist? How are you now, how do you now not have integrity? How do you not now have wisdom? How are you, and let me quote, Winfrey making a surprise appearance in Chicago, urged voters to support Harris in the 2024 election, emphasizing decency and respect as key values. Now, reading between the lines, and by the way, I'm getting this information off the Express Tribute paper as of today, August the 22nd. All right, decency and respect, emphasizing decency and respect. That would also tell me that the opponent doesn't have that. She called on Americans to choose the sweet promise of tomorrow over the bitter return to yesterday. Now, yesterday has been Vice President Harris for 3.5 years. And we're going on stage and talking about change and what we're going to do and what we're not going to do and her ideas. Why were her ideas not important over the last 3.5 years right down the hall? And taking this deal a little bit farther, Oprah. Oprah, it's info@mx3.vip. Feel free to email me and come on the show. I'll come on your show. Let's talk about it. Hypocrite. I understand things change, and you love this person one day, and then you find out something else, and now you don't love them tomorrow. But here we are. She wanted to be the running mate once upon a time. And I know that Democrats would say, well, Mike Pence did too once upon a time. So whatever. But nevertheless, here you are coming out and doing what you do and saying what you say and endorsing a candidate that is already in office. They have already been trying to make change. They've been already trying to do whatever it is they do in a party that several months ago, 2 months ago, that party was considering replacing the vice president nominee and putting someone else on the ticket with Joe Biden as his running mate. All right. Now she is the best candidate since JFK to hit the Democratic Party, and how things change, which leads us into RFK, who was a candidate back in 1968. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And question for you, as you are watching YouTube and riding down the road, listening to our podcast channel, who out there would know who Nicole Shanahan is? Frankly, I didn't know it until...
I knew who RFK Jr. was, but I didn't know who his running mate was.
Nicole Shanahan is the vice president running mate to RFK Jr.
Yeah, they just simply don't get any mentions on the news.
Nobody's going to know who Nicole Shanahan is, but they're getting to know her because she's out there chomping at the bit and throwing it around. And I did not know this either, because obviously RFK throws his name out there, and that Kennedy name is been around. I mean, that's royalty in the United States of America. And with that family, hardcore Democratic family for going on a century, I'm sure. I did not know until I went back and looked this and we did our research. RFK actually filed his paperwork April the 5th, 2023. See, the society, the political society that we live in, thinks RFK got in the race later on. I thought that. He actually filed on April the 5th and declared on April the 19th, 2023. So why haven't we known more about him? He wanted to debate as a Democratic nominee and did not have any success even getting a debate with President Joe Biden. So you think about what happened in the first debate with former president and current Republican candidate Donald Trump and current sitting president Joe Biden in their first debate. What if that debate had happened back in the spring with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Now what?
Mm-hmm.
What if he was allowed to debate current sitting president Joe Biden? I don't think that Joe Biden would have ever got an opportunity to debate Donald Trump. Now, would that then allow them, the Democrats, to make this man their nominee? Did you also know that he and his campaign have qualified for all the ballots in all 50 states? I did not know that. Now, my understanding after what I call the Ross Perot debacle back in 1992, they changed those rules. Became harder and harder for you to get on the ballot to be able to run for president of the United States. Well, the RFK campaign has done that, and they have received whatever it is, enough write-in votes, enough going around getting people to sign to put him on the ballot, and her vice president running mate Nicole Shanahan. And here we are, and they still have not given up, but their days are numbered, in my opinion. So we have a video here, a reaction video that is from a show called Impact Theory, and vice president running mate of JFK's Nicole Shanahan is on here talking about their particular candidacy right now. So let's run that, Jason, and we'll stop and start, and I'll comment accordingly.
I got to just keep being honest. I got to keep focusing on what matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision that goes beyond November.
I think
if that means that...
I think the reason she's saying that is the first white flag. They're not going to get a shot from the Democrats. He's not going to get an opportunity to debate Harris because Harris has already been nominated as the Democratic nominee. And they were able to fight them off long enough to not have to do that. She's going outside party lines because right now they're not affiliated with any party.
We stay in, and, you know, there's benefits to staying in. If we get over 5% of the vote, we actually establish ourselves as a party.
Did you know that? I did not know that.
I did not know.
Now, what? So if you establish yourself as a party, what party is it? Is it the independent party?
Well, I think there's a multiple independent parties.
Yes. So maybe it's the Kennedy party.
Like Greenleaf, and there's all kinds of different parties.
Green. Okay. 5%. If you get 5% of the vote, you are established as a party.
71% of Americans want a strong third party.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. The American voting, tax-paying citizen is tired of the Republicans and the Democrats. But voters, you don't go out there and do anything about it. So you've got 80 days plus here to decide if you're actually going to go out and stake your claim and do a voice, which a lot of people after that first debate wasn't so sure that they were going to do that. You've got to go vote. And I know not only in this election, but over the last several elections, it's been the lesser of two evils. But you've got to go out there and vote. And I do believe that people do want a strong third party. I'd be anxious to see if that happens in our lifetime. But as we continue on here, let's see what else that Vice President candidate Shanahan.
With a real shot at winning. There's even public funds available if we get over 5% of the vote. So we could get, I think it's like $13.5 million.
$13.5 million. Now, funds available. And we were talking off the air, Jason and I, where those funds come from. So we don't really know. You know it's not coming from the federal government. They do provide Secret Service as you establish yourself as a bona fide candidate. So if you are trying to become the Democratic nominee, which is what RFK's been trying to do, then I would assume you get some funds from the Democratic.
DNC and the RNC.
Yes, from the conventions.
As far as the independents, I don't know. They'd probably have to raise that stuff themselves.
In public funds to keep the party going. And that's, you know, that's worth something. That means that we can position for a real third party election in 2028 where we don't have to go around and spend tens of millions of dollars on ballot access.
Okay. So that also tells me that RFK Jr. is trying to figure out how to position himself for the 2028 election. And apparently, Vice President candidate Shanahan is planning on being a part of that. Now, if you have not been following this particular story, they have had to, as we already said, they're qualified for all ballots, and they have spent a lot of time trying to stay on the ballots, not necessarily a lot of time out there campaigning. That's what she's talking about.
Which means that we can spend all of that time and money campaigning. So, you know, there's two options that we're looking at. And one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walt's presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump.
Okay. We all know Kennedys are diehard Democrats, as I've already talked about. And they're talking here that if he stays in the race, he feels he will pull votes away from Trump. Okay?
I think he's going to be pulling votes from a little bit from both.
I do too, but I think that he'd be pulling more votes from the Democrats just because of the family's affiliation all these years. So if he is talking about the votes he would pull from Trump, then he sides more with the Republican viewpoint. So why wasn't he one of those 10 or 15 candidates back in the spring that were having those debates, who basically was going to turn out and who was going to run for the Republican nomination against Donald J. Trump. That would be my question right now. It's a little confusing to me.
And you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision. Not easy.
Clearly.
Yeah, not an easy decision.
A couple of thoughts here as we come to the conclusion of this particular episode of Money, Motivation, and Mike. Vice President candidate Nicole Shanahan comes across with her voice, and you got to remember, a lot of people only hear the voice going down the highway, on a podcast, on the radio. Maybe they're standing in the kitchen while the TV's going on. She comes across to me as very weak, Jason. Very, very weak.
Yeah, not a strong voice.
Not strong at all. I mean, I will say this for Vice President Harris. She has sounded a whole lot stronger over the last month than she has over the last 3.5 years. But I'll also tell you this. I believe it's because the Democrats have kept her away from the voice. So be it. But what I hear here is they are trying to decide what I'll call now the JFK Jr. Party until RFK Jr. Party until something else comes along, trying to decide if they're going to stay in to try to establish the party, which they think right now will take votes away from Donald Trump, or get out and support Donald Trump. Now, they have to have a little bit of support to have qualified for all the ballots in all the states. So good for them. Good for them. You can continue to contact us at info@mx3.vip. And Jason, maybe here's what we need to do. Maybe you need to email Oprah and see what she wants to do. Maybe you need to email RFK Jr. Get him in here. We'll tell them we'll come to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have them fly their jet in out here at the local airport, and we'll jump on that dude and go up there and we'll find our own way home.
There we go.
Yeah. We'll hitchhike.
No problem.
Yes. But I'm more intrigued to get on there, and I'd like to know what has changed in Oprah's mind in the last years since, frankly, she was in love with Donald Trump and wanted to be the vice president of the United States.
Yeah.
Now, I know I'm trying to wrap the show up, but I just thought about something. Think about how close that election was with Gore and Bush back in 2000. They couldn't even declare a winner. Remember, that's the old hanging Chad down there in Broward County, down by Miami, Florida. They couldn't even declare a winner. It took, I think they announced it around Christmas, but it may have been even a little bit later than that. It took a month. And don't forget, the person who had to certify off on that Florida election was brother Jeb Bush.
How about that?
How about that? So, how would a Trump Oprah Winfrey? Oprah Winfrey's going to get some votes just because of who she is.
Yeah.
I mean, she's as popular as any president.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's got her own dadgum network.
Yeah. Well, you kind of know what her views are. She don't have to even go up on the debate stage, right?
It's kind of like Trump not having to go to a debate.
Exactly. You know what you're getting.
You know what you're getting, whether you like it or not. Oprah, info@mx3.vip. Jason will be waiting for you to contact us. Find all of our content at mx3.vip or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@mx3 podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon as Jason puts out this good knowledge and information every Monday morning around 9 o'clock. 64,071 subscribers as we record our show today. For everyone who's been a part of this show and Money, Motivation, and Mike, continue to live your life the right way.